In today's video, we have the latest trade talk around the NHL. Today we're looking at the Ottawa Senators, Columbus Blue Jackets, and the San Jose Sharks. The latest rumors on free agent Patrick Kane. Where might he end up? We also have some news from some injuries, and has rookie Logan Cooley broken a curse? We'll discuss that and some news from the waiver wire coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. First up, I want to start with something that's just a kind of for fun here, but has Arizona Coyotes rookie sensation Logan Cooley, who stands to be in the mix for the Calder Trophy. I think he's going to be one of the new electric young players of the game. Has he helped the NHL break a curse, or at least the players breaking a curse? Now, if any of you are superstitious at all, you may or may not read anything into this, but Logan Cooley became the 14th player in NHL history to make his debut on a Friday the 13th. Now, some people don't think anything of that. Some people think it's a little spooky. Some people think it's, whatever. But he's the first player in NHL history to register a point. So the first 13 players to play on Friday the 13th did not have any points in their NHL debuts. Logan Cooley has done it. So we'll see if that means anything moving forward or not. I just saw that fun little story on one of the sports sites earlier. Thought I'd throw that into today's video just for a little bit of light humor. We got news from the NHL waiver wire here today. Yesterday, we seen that the Oilers placed Niemelainen on waivers. He did indeed clear, so he'll be assigned to the minors. And today, we found out that the Columbus Blue Jackets were placing forward Eric Robertson on waivers as well. They were activating Matthew Olivier and needed to clear a roster spot. Robinson is the unfortunate victim here, so he'll go on waivers today and find out tomorrow if he's either being picked up or being reassigned to the minor leagues. Longtime NHL veteran Jordie Benn, who was unable to get an NHL contract this year, has decided to take his services overseas. He has signed a contract to play in Europe. I believe it was the Swedish league in the SHL, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see if Jordie Benn continues to play over there, tries to make an NHL return or what have you, but certainly want to wish him luck on extending his career over in Europe. A couple of quick updates on some injuries. One game into his tenure with the Sharks, Mikael Granlund is on the IR, so he got hurt in their first game. Not a great way for him to start there with the Sharks. The Canucks got some bad news as well on Ilya Mikheyev. They were hoping he was going to be able to return from his injury that he's been rehabbing for some time, had surgery late last year. They were hoping he'd be back this week, and it's not looking good now. He went from making good progress and the coaching staff saying that he was probably going to play in the next few days here, maybe Tuesday, and now he's back into a non-contact jersey. So he's clearly had a setback and back to no real definitive timeline. So hard to say exactly how much longer he's going to be out. We don't really have a lot of details on the details of the setback or what exactly happened. So we'll see, but that's certainly not good news at all for Vancouver. And I've seen tonight in the Montreal game. Tonight's game, Montreal and Chicago, with Connor Bedard making his Hockey Night in Canada debut. I know he's getting all kinds of fanfare everywhere as he goes. I think they were calling it Bedard Night in Canada tonight. He gets to play Montreal tonight and in Toronto tomorrow. So he's hitting all the top markets here in his young NHL career. But Montreal Canadiens forward Kirby Dach, playing his former team in Chicago, got hit. I believe it was Tenorti, took him up, and he ended up in the Chicago bench. He seemed fine at first, and then later seemed to be having issues with his leg. I'm guessing it seemed to be around the knee area. Not sure, but he did go down the tunnel, and he did not come back out for the second period, and his night is over. So I don't know what that means for the future. Of course, we'll have to wait and get updates. Generally, after the game, you don't usually hear a lot. Oftentimes, it's, we'll see in the next day or so once, the injury has time to settle and stuff. So you have to expect an update on Kirby Dach and the Montreal Canadiens here in the not-too-distant future and see if he's going to be out for any length of time or not. Now some news in Ottawa. They had their home opener today, put on a great show. Certainly had lots of fan stuff going on outside the arena leading into it. It was an early start, 1 o'clock Eastern, which is not a common thing at all for them, for home openers especially. They opened up against Claude Giroux's former team, the Philadelphia Flyers. Giroux was honored pre-game. Of course, late last season, one of the final games of the year, he hit his 1,000 points. They hadn't had a chance to honor him for that as of yet. Of course, they need a little bit of time to get his extra special stick made that they have. There's like a golden stick made. So they finally had that all done. They get to honor him with his wife and kids there in attendance. They even made little special mini sticks for his children, which was really fun to see as well. Pretty cool, and get to be presented it by Daniel Alfredson now that he's back in the organization. So great little pregame ceremony from that front. The Senators did beat the Flyers 5-2 today to take their home opener, even the record to 1-1. Much better defensive effort, good effort from Anton Forsberg and between the pipes. But the fans were even getting into a "We Want Pinto" chant. Nothing like sending a message to your organization. Of course, the new owner in attendance, Steve Staios, new president in attendance. Of course, what you'd expect on a home opener anyway. And actually, I think it happened twice, if I'm not mistaken. The Pinto chant started. So fans putting a little pressure on the front office. But as of right now, we still don't have any further updates. We do know Shane Pinto was in Ottawa on the weekend and was there for a few days. But then apparently he's gone back home to New York now. Apparently it was too much of a distraction and just getting too much attention. And like I said before, I wonder if he kind of maybe was advised by his agent, maybe wasn't great from a negotiating standpoint either, but we'll see. At the end of the day, they still need to clear some space. I know Bruce Garriock, who's very well connected to the team and covered the story closely, indicated between periods today that they're still talking about Matthew Joseph, Eric Brandstrom. He even hinted about the possibility of a player like Brandstrom going on waivers. He doesn't think that Brandstrom would get picked up on waivers. I disagree. He's on a 1-year deal, $2 million. You know, in Ottawa, he's a third pair guy, but he's an offensively gifted defenseman. You do have to live a little bit with the good with the bad, but he has improved his defensive game as well. When he's on, he's really on, but he does make some mistakes. The first game of the season wasn't great. His training camp and preseason action wasn't as good as they were hoping for based on how things finished last season. But to be completely honest, I'm not sure they can really trade a defenseman here. Here's the thing. If you and not that they don't have the depth, because they do. If they traded Eric Brandstrom, they could easily slide Tyler Kleven into that spot, and all would be said and done now. But the only problem is you take Brandstrom out, you have to replace him, right? So you're going to take his $2 million salary out, but you don't get the full $2 million savings. Another defenseman has to come in, and you're looking at, Kleven or another D who's making, between $800,000 and $900,000. Not a lot of money. You're still going to get about 1.1 or 1.1 and change savings, maybe 1.2, but you're not getting that full $2 million savings. Right now, the Sens, as of today, actually have 12 forwards on the roster. If Pinto goes in, you can actually take a forward out, like, for example, Rourke Chartier, and send him to the minors. So you actually get some relief and a player that you're replacing with the guy you're bringing in, Shane Pinto. So to me, it just makes more sense. I don't know. I mean, if Matthew Joseph, to me, is still the most ideal candidate to trade. I know he had a good training camp, a good first game of the season, but his contract, it just makes things a lot easier at 2.9, and we'll see. Now, if they trade at Brandstrom, they could bring in Kleven. They could still send Chartier down, but you're not going to get quite as much cap relief that way. I don't know. There's more moving parts that way by moving a defenseman. At the end of the day, they really, Brandstrom was about the only D they'd be willing to move. I know at one point there was some speculation that maybe they'd look at moving Artem Zub. I don't really think they'd want to do that. And in the forward group, I don't know. Like, Joseph is really, like, you can't move. You're not going to move Brady, Tkachuk, Timmy Stützle. Obviously, Norris is injured. Batherson's got a perfect contract. Tarasenko, they signed and gave him a no-move clause. He's not going anywhere. So it's got to be Joseph or Kubalik. Kubalik makes 2.5. Joseph makes 2.9. Brandstrom doesn't quite make enough, in my opinion, to get Pinto signed and be able to give that flexibility that you need. So, in all honesty, I don't know that it can be a D because of the way things are structured. So I know Brandstrom's name has been out there. I'm not seeing how that really solves your problem. So in my opinion, I know the price tags have been high. They said that on the intermission of the Sens game today that the Flyers were looking for them to include Ridley Gregg to take on Matthew Joseph, and that's absolutely ridiculous and insane. They're never going to do that. Would they give up a first-round pick? They don't really want to. And to be honest, Joseph's a decent enough player that they probably shouldn't have to. Can they add something? Sure, I get that, but that's the dilemma that they're facing right now is the high prices. But, it's the Flyers that are putting those high price tags up. There are other teams they can talk to. But the good news on Norris is that he's expected to either play tomorrow or Wednesday. So that's what they're saying right now. But we've heard this numerous times. I'll believe it when I see it and he's on the ice and in the lineup. But for right now, that's where things stand. The Sens are trying to make a trade. Prices are really, really high. And we are still in waiting mode for Pinto's arrival because of it. So we'll have to see. In Columbus, there's word that maybe Columbus and Montreal could pull off a trade together. We know they want to move a defenseman. One name that comes up is Adam Boqvist. He was the first one scratched, I think, between Boqvist, Bean, and Peak. I think Boqvist might be the guy that Columbus probably prefer the move or would prefer to move first. They really want to get Jerard in the lineup. Now, Werenski did get hurt again. He's going to be out for a week to 2 weeks. So that buys them a little bit of time because they get Jerard in the lineup anyway because he's already been recalled. But a guy like Boqvist, to me, is... there should be some takers out there. I'm not sure that Montreal is the perfect trading partner for Columbus in that instant. We've heard about Vancouver as well. I'm not completely sure that that's a perfect match either. With Montreal, I guess the rationale is that they have some young defensemen. Adding a guy like Boqvist who has a little bit more experience might take the pressure off them, allow them, if they wanted to send somebody else down to Laval for a while, that they have more flexibility in that sense. The Jackets would probably want a forward in return. Montreal does have plenty of them, but not really sure exactly who they would possibly part with in return. Thankfully for Montreal, they were able to move on from a lot of guys that they wanted to. I know one player they'd like to move now is Yoel Armia. I don't know that Columbus would have any interest in him. But time will tell here. I know there's reportedly some interest in Montreal in looking at the Columbus blue line, but I'm not entirely convinced that's going to happen. Columbus definitely wants to do something, though, around moving a D. And time will tell who their preferred partner is. Could it be Montreal? Could it be somebody else? Time will tell. San Jose seems eager to move on from Kevin Labanc. Either way, this is going to be his last year in San Jose. It's pretty clear at this point that they don't have interest in re-signing him. He will be an unrestricted free agent at season's end. Obviously, that contract he signed, I think it was 4 years and $4.75 million a year, has not worked out well. He has never hit a 20-goal season. He had 33 points last year. A lot of teams see him as being very much overpaid, but where it's only 1 year, San Jose likely would retain some money and to make that a little bit more digestible for other teams. But Labanc definitely needs a fresh start. Again, hard to say where he's going to end up. He hasn't been linked to any specific team, but San Jose is actively looking to move him. He was a healthy scratch on opening night and likely won't be a regular in their lineup this year unless he finds a way to get his career back on track and to get going. Now, the latest on Patrick Kane, according to an article from Sportsnet. This article is about a week old, but it listed a bunch of teams that were interested or they believe would be good fits, I should say, in Patrick Kane. Some of these teams we have talked about before, but one of them that's come up in this article, which just makes some sense, that we hadn't talked about was the Devils. Obviously, New Jersey is expected to be a leading team in their division. I think they're strong enough that they can be considered a cup contender. For that purpose alone, makes sense that Kane would be interested. Certainly played against them in the playoffs last year for the New York Rangers, so he's seen firsthand what they were capable of. Jack Hughes, just from a fun perspective, has drawn a lot of comparisons to how he plays to Patrick Kane. Both American-born first overall picks with similar style of play. I think seeing them on the same team could have a real fun, possibility from an entertainment perspective, and it could be a real good fit. I mean, if you take a look at what those the teams there in New Jersey they have a lot of good youth, and they do have some good veteran experience around them. You have Andre Palat, you have Tyler Dufour, you have Dougie Hamilton. Adding a guy like Kane might be an interesting move. We don't know what Kane's willing to sign for as of yet, so of course from a cap perspective, it's going to be challenging for a lot of teams to make this under consideration, but it's something that we could see. Other teams mentioned in this article, but it could be a homecoming in Buffalo, a reunion in Detroit with former teammate Alex DeBrincat, Vegas, who I've mentioned before, being a cup contender, and everybody wants to play Vegas for a variety of reasons. The fact that it's a fun city, well-run organization that a lot of players have success with. Obviously, the Stanley Cup last year, they know they're going to be, in a contending team. Not to mention the no state tax. And a wild card that's been mentioned here in all this is the Florida Panthers. Now, the Panthers have started 0-2. I don't want to overreact here because it's only a couple of games. But if their season goes like I've predicted, I'm not convinced right now that Florida is going to be a playoff team. If they are, then obviously that'll be a big difference for Kane. But I think Kane's going to take his time here the first month or two of the season, or 6 weeks or whatever it is, and kind of really see how all the teams are doing. He's not going to go somewhere he doesn't think has a chance to win. And if Florida is having a poor start, if that continues, I don't know if they're going to be in the mix. But I've heard that team from others, including Elliot Friedman before, saying he really wonders if Florida would be a good landing spot for Kane. So hopefully one of these teams would be very interesting to land Kane services. Be curious to see where things go and just add another element of entertainment to the mix here as the season moves along. I hope you're enjoying all the action so far in the NHL season. We're less than a week into it, but lots of great games going on. Like I said, as I record this, there's lots of games going on here tonight as well, including Connor Bedard playing in his first game at the Bell Center in Montreal. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.